Hello again. To begin this next video, we will be picking up where we left off in the first video. As a quick recap, John Jacob Astor incorporated the American Fur Company in 1808. The company was very different in its functioning than its competitors and was much more successful. So moving on, Astor began other subsidiary companies after the success of the American Fur Company. In 1811, he established the Pacific Fur Company, which began the first American community on the West Coast. The company's post was named Astoria after Astor. Astor organized a party of men to travel west to Fort Astoria called the Astor Expedition. It lasted between 1810 and 1812. The expedition was more valuable than originally thought. Some of the members of the expedition discovered the South Pass, which would later be utilized by the settlers traveling on the California, Oregon, and Mormon trails. Astor did not plan on trading solely with the traditional consumers in the Americas, Canada, and Great Britain. He had developed an interest in trade with Asia, and after having exchanged goods with them on occasion, he decided to integrate them in his plans for Fort Astoria. Astor came up with a strategy that, by including Asia, would produce the greatest profit. He would begin by sending ships from New York around Cape Horn, which is located in the southernmost part of South America. From there, the ships would travel to Astoria, where they would exchange the goods they brought from New York for furs. After this, instead of returning to New York to sell the furs they had attained, they would sail to the Orient and sell them there. As furs were more valuable in that region, the Oriental goods would then be traded in Europe, and the effects attained there would be taken across the Atlantic and back to New York. So simply put, Astor's fleets would travel from New York to Astoria, to Asia, to Europe, and back to New York, switching possessions at each stop. This method assured Astor the greatest profit from his exchanges. While this arrangement had every reason to be successful, it was hindered by several factors that culminated to its failure. The factors were, first, an explosion of one of the ships that was still carrying all of its cargo and crew. The second complication was difficulty from Native Americans, and the third was the fort's capture by Canadian forces after the start of the War of 1812. Despite the failure of the Astoria venture, Astor's enterprise didn't suffer much. The advantages gained by the little trading he had carried out in the Orient previously had yielded large profits, and he decided to diversify his holdings by entering into other markets. Here's a clip from a 1937 radio dramatization of Astor's life titled The Story of John Jacob Astor. The clip describes his involvement in real estate and how it grew his fortune.
His North American Fur Company now dominated the Trans-Mississippi Territory. Such was the development of the first American trust, Astor's monopoly in furs. Meanwhile, he had a sharp eye to investment opportunities nearer at hand.
There you are. My signature, Mr. Astor.
Good. The property is yours, and you got your money's worth.
More than that, I'll wager. I think I've got the better of you this time, Mr. Astor.
So?
Wall Street property is rising in value. Why, in a few years, that house and lot will be worth half again as much.
True.
Well, then why did you sell? I'd understood your practice was to buy.
With this $8,000 you have just paid me, I'll buy 80 lots uptown beyond Canal Street.
Huh?
By the time your lot is worth $12,000, my 80 lots will be worth $80,000.
Oh, impossible.
You are not the first who has laughed at me. A few years ago, my friend, I paid $300 a lot for the Bayard hayfield on Broad Street. Yesterday, I was offered 3 times that price for one of my lots.
They say you buy farms several miles up the island. Why?
It is no secret. Have you ever watched the ships come into our harbor here? What do they carry? Have you noticed that?
Why, goods, of course, and people.
Yeah, there you have it. People. And people must have land, homes. 25,000 people in New York when I arrived. Now there are nearly 50,000. Someday it will be 100, 200, 300,000. Who knows where it will stop?
Perhaps you're right, Mr. Astor.
I have 2 millions, maybe, in ships and cargoes. But I have the making of many times that amount right here on this little island of Manhattan. Yes, my friend, this community is destined to grow, and I intend to grow with it. Fortunes beyond our imagining will be made here. Factories, industries, the greatest city in the world, the gateway to America.
While this radio program offers unique insight on Astor's life, it left out some unsavory parts. Astor didn't just make his fortune in the fur trade and in real estate. In 1816, Astor entered into the opium smuggling business. Astor purchased thousands of pounds of opium from Turkey and then sold it in Canton, which is in modern times known as Guangzhou. It's in China. Astor later severed his opiate ties with China and sold exclusively to Britain. Astor eventually left a fortune estimated at $20 million to his children and various charities.